Now, finally, we will spend a fair amount of time talking about something called blockchain technology. What I want to do now is I want to just explain to you how complex it is to actually use current financial infrastructure. Now, in this picture, you have two people, and one of them wants to sell a stock, right? So here we have Alice. She wants to sell ABX, which you know is Barrick Gold. And on the other hand, we have Bob, who wants to buy ABX. Now, these two legally can actually not do their trade directly with one another. What happens, therefore, is that Alice needs to go to her broker and puts in a sell order. Now, the broker will take that order and forwards it to a stock exchange. The same holds on the other side, where you have Bob, and Bob who wants to buy ABX. So he gives the buy order to his broker, and therefore has to give the broker some money to be doing this. The broker will then, in this case, I think I put RBC, would also send the order to the stock exchange. And in many cases, there's actually another additional intermediary in between, some type of tech vendor. Now, what the exchange does, it does find if they can agree on a price, it provides the match, but this is not where it ends. They then report their trade to a clearinghouse, and their clearinghouse then will make the end of day settlement of the stock trade and report this to custodian banks, to the two custodian banks that the respective brokers are using. And then there's some, changes of beneficiary ownership. They have to be recorded in a separate company called Broadridge. And then finally, when the stock trade happens, at some point also the money has to end up in Alice's account. And for that, everything has to go through the Bank of Canada's payment system. So it has to run over the Bank of Canada account. And all of this takes, at this point, 3 days to happen. So, as you can see, nobody in the right state of mind, or if you ask me, would design this in this way, would they? Now, of course, this is something which has organically developed over many centuries, but the point is that this is a crazy complex system. Who would build something like this? Well, what we will be talking about is blockchain technology, where essentially these transactions between these two parties can effectively happen directly. They may use a service, right? So an exchange, but which would facilitate the transaction so that the two can find one another, but it would still not involve any of these other parties that are there. That exchange essentially will make a direct transfer between the two parties. Does that exist? Is this futuristic? No, it's already there. And I can tell you the trades are much cheaper. You can make a trade of an arbitrary size for pennies, and so on and so forth. So there is the changes that are coming on that end are phenomenal and large. Now, what a blockchain is, effectively, and this is what we're going to talk about, is a network of computers that all keep the same information, so that essentially, if you want, that is the platform that I'm talking about, so that these transactions or value transactions can happen in a decentralized manner among individuals and then get recorded by everybody around. I know this sounds really squishy. I'm going to spend a fair amount of time on this, but this is one of the major things that comes out of this course. Now, so therefore, what we see here, what this blockchain systems, however, allow us to do is to break up the silos of information and the silos of the compartmentalized transactions, which make everything very complicated, and create a joint open single system. This is going to be extremely powerful and will have obviously transformational changes, bring it in the financial industry. Is it happening? Yes, it is already moving. Facebook Libra is essentially trying to build something of that nature. Now, this is, however, not an easy thing to happen, right? And so I'm going to tell you a tale of railroads, which is a little cheeky, and it's not entirely true, but it's a very good tale because it sort of gives us an indication of how much we are beholden to certain sets of technology and certain sets of rules without even knowing this. So if you look at US railroads, right? So the standard width is 4 feet, 8.5 inches, right? That's the distance between these rails. This looks like a completely arbitrary number, if you ask me. I mean, we measure everything in inches or in meters, right? So, but why would you pick 4 feet 8.5 inches? Why not pick 5 feet? Why not pick 4? What is it? Is that an optimal technology to do that? The answer is no. Right? Now, in the US, they built them that way because that's what they did in England. Now, why did England build them that way? Well, that's the use that they used always for their railroad, right? And they used it also for rail tramways. Now, where did that come from? Well, the reason why they built it that way is that they could use the same jigs and tools that were used for the building of wagons, right? Because, you build a railroad and then, you have the carriages and all of that, and they are usually a particular size. And, you have particular sets of tools to build them that way, and people have built them for centuries. So why don't you just do the same thing? But then these carriages all had actually very particular wheel spacing, which was such that it would actually fit into these 4 feet 8 inches. Now, where did that come from? Now, this came from a very long time ago. So when they had wheels that were other than that, they would actually break on the roads. Now, why was that? Well, because once you have a number of carriages that go in the same, that have a particular width, if you have tighter ones or broader ones, if you think of the old roads, they usually are shaped. And so if they were any bigger than that or any smaller, they would break. So there's a certain merit to the standardization there. But where did that standardization come from? The first long distance roads that were built in Europe and therefore also in England were built by the ancient Romans, right? All roads lead to Rome. So now the gauge that you used, so where did that come from? Where did these roads come from? Well, these roads were built based on the war chariots that people used, right? So remember the movie Spartacus or the like? The chariots that were used at those times, those were the ones that were built for the Roman roads, which were therefore built for the UK roads, which determined the size of the wagon wheels, which determined the size of the railroads in the UK, which determined the size of the railroads in the US. And now here comes the real kicker. When we built the rockets that had to go to the moon, they had to be transported on railroads and fit through tunnels, which were determined, the width of which was determined by the size of the railroad. So in other words, the rockets that we sent to space, the size that we could put them on, were determined by the chariots of ancient Rome. So technology as it is has a huge long-run impact. Now, this is not entirely true, this story, but it's a really cute story, right? Anyway, so there's some economic insights here for the regulation, right? So when you break the system as it is, this brings me to the end of this last lecture. It's just the basic, my view of what the taxonomy of the fintech ecosystem is. So that means what kind of firms are out there. Now, on this page, I have a few, and we will talk about various different forms of these firms during this class at great detail. There's firms of crowdfunding, insurtech means insurance, digital wealth management, personal finance. We'll spend some time talking about blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and so on. Talk about platforms, open banking platforms. We'll talk about payments, data analytics, and regtech and compliance security. All of these items in some form or other will feature in this class. What I hope you will get out of this course is overall a solid understanding of the fintech ecosystem, what is out there, what roles are out there, and how you could contribute. I want you to get a basic understanding of the critical tools that are there, not to the point that you can actually use them. I'm sorry about that. I would love to do that, but that requires a much larger machinery. But at least you have the ability to talk competently about them. So we will talk about machine learning, AI, and big data analytics, and we will talk about blockchain technology. And then finally, I want you to be able to generate your own idea. So the core deliverable of this course and the way the assignments are built up is for you to come up with your own product or business idea. Now, this is something that you've never done, I think, and I think this is the first for you. And the way this course is designed and the way the assignments are designed is that I try to guide you and give you sort of pointers of how you could come up with your own idea. I'm not going to give you your idea, you have to do that all by yourself. And I'm not going to throw you into the cold water all by itself, all by your own on the other hand. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to make you do certain tasks, so that by the end of it, you've built up enough knowledge and enough insights such that if you have a creative streak, you can actually come up with something new. And this will be valuable for you for many reasons. Obviously, I think it's actually quite a fun exercise. But I think also what you get from it is that, when you have to go to interviews, you have something to talk about, right? Maybe you want to even, take that idea and go take it further. We have a incubator lab in the iCube here as part of IMI and part of our university. So they will be happy to help you along if you have the capacity and interest in doing it. So there's many positive things that come out of this. If you look at the number of assignments that are there, it may look scary and large, but actually it's not that bad. So that's it for the first lecture. And I'll talk to you soon over Zoom.